Hi, my name's Penny. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in March. So this month I had a pretty good reading month. Firstly, I've read 14 things, although if you group the graphic novels into series and just count them as one thing, which I think is probably more honest, then it's only 10 things, but 10 things is still really good. So I'm pretty happy with that. While some of the things I read this month were kind of meh, there were some things that I really loved, and so that made up for it. So I'm going to talk about things grouped by format, and I also already did like a mid-month wrap-up, so any of the books that I mentioned in that wrap-up, I'm just going to refer you on to that video. Okay, so let's start with audiobooks. So I only read 2 audiobooks this month, which is mainly because I read 2 really long, like 25-hour ones. And also, I started out just reading them 1 times speed. And I really quickly realized that 1, that's really boring. And 2, I can get through it a lot quicker if I go faster. I guess the thing is as well that neither of these audiobooks were really as good as I was hoping. So the ones that I read was The Magi'i of Cyador and also The Colors of Chaos by Modesitt Jr. So these are the 9th and 10th books of the Saga of Recluce series, which I'm trying to read through. I have to be honest, I'm really honestly thinking about whether I should DNF the series, but I started reading this series like 20 years ago or some shit. That's probably not true, but at least 10 years ago, maybe 15. So I feel like I should just keep going. I can just listen to them all on audiobook. I don't really like the narrator, but I can get over that. I also think that both of these books were about guys who end up being in the White Army, so white wizards, which are chaos wizards in this world, who kind of fight against the order wizards or the black wizards of this world. And I think from memory, the stories I read from before that were from the black wizards' point of view were the ones that I really enjoyed, or grey wizards actually are a million times better. So hopefully some more of the books, or especially the next one in the series, will be about a black wizard and I'll enjoy it more. I'm going to at least push on for a little bit longer. I will say another thing that really annoyed me about these audiobooks is that because it's in the army, sometimes there would be shouting and the narrator would always shout, and like often I'm listening to these on my commute and I'm trying to like relax and calm down, and suddenly this guy's like yelling, and I kind of have this problem at work with one particular guy who keeps raising his voice, and so I'm particularly sensitive to people raising their voice at the moment, and it's just very annoying. Like, just because it says in the narration that this character yelled doesn't mean that the audiobook narrator needs to suddenly yell, because it's very disruptive. There were another couple of audiobooks that I was hoping to get to this month, but I didn't quite make it. They were both like library requests, and they have come through, so I will be reading them at the very beginning of April. Alright, so now let's talk about ebooks. So I read 3 ebooks, and the first 2 I've already talked about, which is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine and also Opal, which is a short story by Maggie Stiefvater set in the same world as the Raven Cycle. I kind of enjoyed A Wrinkle in Time, and then I loved Opal, so check out my other video if you want to see me saying how amazing it was. But also it's really short, so just go read it. Well, only if you've read the Raven Cycle. If you've read the Raven Cycle and you haven't read Opal, fix that. Alright, so then the last ebook I read took me a long time. In fact, I've actually been reading it on the side since the end of January, and that is Window Wall by Melanie Rawn, which is the 4th book of the Touchstone series. I think I've been saying the Glass Dawn series. That's not right. Touchstone series? Maybe that's not right either. Anyway, this is a 5-book series that follows this theatre troupe that uses magic in their theatre performances. There's also some political intrigue going on, and one of the guys has visions, but any actual plot is kind of like so spread out that I'm not really sure that it exists. It's more like fantasy slice of life. To be honest, I'm not really enjoying it. I gave this 2 stars. But there's only one more book in the series, so I am just going to push on through because I do want to see, after reading 4 books, if something happens at the end, or like how it wraps up. I don't know. I'm not good at DNFing things, as you can probably tell from this video already. Like, I really just want to read books that I really enjoy, but I also don't like leaving stories half finished in my mind, so I have DNF'd some things recently though, but for the most part I can't do it. Alright, so then physical books. I read 2 physical books, both of them in the second half of the month, I believe. No, that's not true. The first one that I read was Invictus by Graudin, which is like a story about some time-traveling thieves, and it was one of my favorite books of the year. I really loved it. It's a lot of fun. And I think after reading so many kind of long and dense books recently, or at least window wall kind of dragging on, I was really ready for something kind of light and fun, but also time travel is always kind of something I enjoy. Anyway, I don't need to talk about it more because I talked about it in my previous wrap-up. Let's move on. So the other physical book I read, is one of the few that I actually have here, which is Magic Bites by Ilona, which is the first book in the Kate Daniels series. So this is one of my favorite series, and I have just started rereading it because the 10th and final book in the series is coming out later in the year. And I've read these like kind of as they came out, so it's been quite a long time since I read this first one, and I just kind of want to get the whole full story in my head before the final book. Because Kate does go through quite a lot through this series and things change quite a lot. So it was really interesting going back to this first book and seeing kind of the different scale of events, and also seeing how much she's changed as a person, because in this, Kate's kind of this screw up, anti-authority bitch. Really sassy. I love kind of some of the stuff she says. It's just hilarious. I've talked about this series a lot, but it's set in like a dystopian version of Atlanta, where magic has started to come back, and it comes back in waves, but whenever magic's up, technology no longer works, so the world has become quite a different place, especially because some of the magic is very dramatic, especially in terms of location. I know Ilona does quite a lot of research around Atlanta and different landmarks that she can essentially destroy. So if you live in Atlanta, you should probably read this series and you'll actually recognize a lot of the landmarks. So this book is basically a murder mystery, and she's investigating the murder of her guardian, so she's a bit emotionally involved. She gets involved in this shapeshifter clan, and I just loved it. The pace was great. I possibly did think that sometimes, because there's quite a lot of depth to the world building that's going on, and sometimes that was quite heavy. Because I've read this series before, it didn't really bother me, but I could see how maybe the amount of world building might seem quite overwhelming to first-time readers. I think my introduction to this series was through a short story, which kind of like primed me for this. But I think once you get through a few bits of that, then it's amazing. I gave this 5 stars. Possibly even better than I remember it. But then after that, I read some graphic novel series. The first one I read was Paper Girls, the first 3 books of Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan, I think. So I'm kind of iffy on it. I know a lot of people have said it's really great. I'm not sure I'm into the hype. I'm hopeful that it will get better. I can see that it has potential, but I think there's just not enough of what's actually going on is being explained. Like, I don't mind there being some weirdness and some mystery as long as you know something, but there's too much that's just like, oh, this is cool, because you don't know what's going on. And after 3 volumes, I would really hope to know what's going on, so I was a bit disappointed in that. More details in my mid-March wrap-up. So after that, I then picked up Monstress, which is another graphic novel series that I've seen lots of people saying good things about. I think it's by Majorie Liu. I don't have it here because I did have to take it back to the library. For this series, I do really love the art style, and in fact, what's really making me get through the series is the cats. So in this world, there are basically 5 races, one of which is cats, count as a race, and they have like these necromancers, which are like necromancers, but they're cats, and they can bring these ghosts up to ask them questions. I'm totally there for the cats. There's also the old gods, the ancients, which are like animal type humans, and then the humans, and then lastly the arcanists. Is that right? I've kind of forgotten, but they're like half ancients, half humans, so they kind of mostly appear human but sometimes have animal features. And the problem is, so it's an interesting setup and the art is amazing, but there are so many characters, especially the human characters, that I don't even know who they are. I can't keep track what their motivations are, why they're doing this stuff, and there's all these dramatic fight scenes with like crazy things going on, but I'm not really excited by it because I'm still like, but who is that person again? Why are they fighting with this other person? I don't know if I'm just dumb and it's gone over my head, but again, I don't understand enough about what's going on. I've only read the first 2 volumes. I think the third one's coming out soon. I am more excited to read that than I am Paper Girls because I feel like we're closer to having a real storyline in that series. I don't know if it's just me or graphic novels, but I really struggle with a lot of like the lack of clarity around the plot. So if you know some graphic novels that have a bit more clarity around the plot, then I would really appreciate your recommendations. I did read one of the series in March, which was for season 11, the 3rd and 4th books of the Buffy series. So this is the 3rd one, which I have to return to the library soon. And I also read the 4th one on my iPad, also borrowed from the library. I am really enjoying the themes that are explored in this season. So that's basically set up where now the world all knows about magic and vampires. But then this dragon attacks and they decide that they need to, for the safety of everybody, lock all the magical people up in like internment camps. And it's kind of draws quite a lot of parallels to what's going on in the real world. There's even this really great fake news Trump reference. So I don't really think this series is amazing, but I am enjoying it. I do also think in some of I think last season and maybe some of the earlier books of this season, the art was somewhat dodgy, but this one I did feel was slightly improved. Still not amazing, but improved. And I do really like, so at the beginning of each kind of book, there's like a proper art page, and I really enjoy those. The actual art through the comic, not so amazing, but I do think that it does still carry the story forward, which is probably more important than amazing art, maybe. I guess when the art's really terrible, you can't pay attention to the story. So the Buffy season, I think this is episode 3. That's how I'm treating it. I think you could still count the Buffy and the Angel ones as separate threads, but I'm not. So this is episode 3. Then episode 4 is an Angel one. And to be honest, nothing happened. We're at this point where Angel is traveling back through time to change something that happened in his past. And as I said, I love time travel, so you would think that I would really like it. But nothing happens. He just mucks around. He fights his past self. The end. I've been reading like this for a long time now, so I will keep reading it, of course. So yeah, after talking through it all, it kind of feels like a meh month, but what really won this month was Invictus, which I loved, rereading Magic Burns, which I also loved, and I also think just the cats from Monstress were amazing enough that I really enjoyed that too. Oh, and the other one was Opal, so that was also good. So there was some stuff just that I loved enough that it made up for all the meh things. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books and you'd like to talk about them down in the comments, or if you read anything else particularly good in March. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.